Hello, happy Wednesday, and welcome to our first series recap. What a better way to kick off this adventure and Mental Health Awareness Month than with our very first series on anxiety. So many guests and experts were generous enough to share with us their stories, insights, science, advice, and we couldn't be more thankful. At the end of each series, we'll grace you with a super fun roundup of our favorite moments from the series.
Those of you out there who haven't made their way through the whole series, we hope this will act as your go-to guide. So let's dive right in.
We're going to kick off each series recap with a summary challenge. This week we've challenged each other to summarize the whole anxiety series in 30 words or less.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's start with Sean.
Yeah, Sean, kick us off.
All right, so here's mine. And it was for sure a challenge because we all like a few extra words here and there.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely hate cutting down, but it's
We like
good.
to draw it out.
Yes. All right, so this series explores diverse aspects and personal journeys through anxiety. From psychologists to foster homes and teens, it's something we all experience. Yet, it's possible to gain control over it.
Oh! So good. Okay. Very good.
Yeah, that was awesome. All right, Mom, you're up.
I was inspired by all the things that people use to fill their cup. And I think in a lot of ways, we're all connected by the things that we love. So here's mine. Fill your cup. Golden Girls, Christina Aguilera, Fry the Cat, yoga, gaming, gratitude, Bandit the dog, boxing, positive juju, reading, Beyonce, doodling, spending time with people you love.
Oh, that was great.
Oh, I love that.
I love how you took that.
Yeah. All right, mine is, I'm going to own it, but this challenge was a challenge.
Good. Yeah.
They don't call it challenge for nothing.
Yes, they don't call a challenge for nothing. Yeah. So I took a more sing-song approach.
Ooh.
Ooh.
The tip of the tongue, the teeth, the lips. The tip of the tongue, the tooth.
Yeah. Okay. Fill your cup. Don't give up. Remember how to cope. There's no wrong place to talk things out. Don't forget you're in control. Redefine, reframe, and don't forget to calm your brain.
Oh, I love it.
Limericky.
Yeah.
Limericky.
I love a good limerick.
Ridiculous.
Face is red.
That was cool. I literally...
Not cool is not the word.
in nerdy circles. I think that it's really, really fascinating how we each took a very different approach.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, now I feel like that kind of refreshed our memory of the series because, 2 months goes by so fast. Looking back on our first episodes, there are so many little things re-listening to them that I completely forgot about.
Same.
Yeah. There were definitely things that I had forgotten, but there are also lifelong lessons that I feel really thankful to have carried with me for these 2 months, and I know that will last for a long time.
Yeah, so I love that we've kind of got that refresher, and now I feel like we can jump right into some of our favorite moments of each episode. Hey there, the Health It's Personal team here. We just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you who have listened, shared, engaged, and sent us love. It means the world to know that we've had the chance to spread even just a little bit of knowledge, insight, and encouragement to you along your health journeys.
If you'd like to support the work we're doing, we've created a Patreon page where you can earn some exciting rewards, because being a part of the HIP team isn't just a hobby, it's a lifestyle.
Contributions start as low as $1 a month, with each level offering a number of super fun perks, like monthly bonus episodes, Q&As, a portrait drawn by our own in-house artist, and even personal chats with the Health It's Personal team.
We created this podcast so that everyone can have the chance to access informative, inspirational, and insightful stories, and your support is a huge step in us reaching those who need it most. We wish we could give you all a big hug, but hopefully this will suffice, at least until we're allowed to hug again.
If you love what you hear or are as passionate about health as we are, please visit patreon.com/thehip podcast. That's patreon.com/the HIP podcast. We couldn't do this without you, so thank you again, and thanks in advance for joining our ever-growing HIP family.
Now we'd like to share with you a clip from each episode that we felt like was super valuable, or, was maybe something we forgot that we'd love to revisit, or something that we've been carrying with us that has been kind of ingrained in our minds. So now we'll just jump right in.
So Michael's episode really stuck with me, and I've heard from so many different people that especially his morning ritual has been so influential in their own lives. And I've had like 8 people message me and say, I've started my own morning ritual. Michael talks about how we can start our days off the right way with gratitude, what we can put off until later and focus on the positives, and what makes us happy and healthy.
It's funny because in the past month, I have completely changed a routine of probably like 20 years. So part of my professional development at ASU, I took a course on LinkedIn Learning. And it's one of the first things that they talk about is your morning routine or the morning ritual. And for so many years, I would wake up and of course, first thing, feed the cats so that they're not angry.
That's important.
Second thing is coffee, like get them situated, get coffee going for me.
Also very important.
Yes. But then, I would sit and start on my phone right away, and I'm checking my emails. And of course, every day I'm getting email with the news, so I'm reading the highlights from the New York Times, top 10 things that I should be worried about today, and then after that, I'm going to log on to Twitter and I'm going to see, some fun things, some cute animal pictures, but a lot of hate and a lot of anger. And that's how I was starting my day every single day.
Sounds very familiar.
Absolutely. And I think we feel obligated to, like, we can't miss that email message. We can't miss that tweet. We can't miss that Facebook post. Is that email, is it going to be there in 30 minutes? Is that tweet going to be available in 30 minutes? Well, maybe not.
Oh yeah, these days, who knows?
But at the same time, what are you really missing out if you don't get to those things right off the bat? So for me, I use a free app called Insight Timer that has guided meditations and mindfulness exercises. And they have a 5-minute morning gratitude. So I listen to that now as my coffee's percolating. Keep in mind, this is happening at like 4:15 in the morning before I'm about to go to the gym. And so I don't like going to the gym. I do not like exercising, but I know it's something that I need to do. I know it's important. But before I do that, I pause and for 5 minutes, just close my eyes and listen to these words where it's guiding you through a visualization exercise and setting up the way that you interact with people moving forward with gratitude, not only for the things in your life, but for the interactions you're going to have for the rest of the day. And at the end of that, you open your eyes and it's hard not to just smile. And so I started doing that. And I'm like, probably 2 weeks into doing this, I kept waking up, 4:15, my alarm's going off. And I'm waking up and I'm excited and I'm feeling good. And I'm feeling, hey cats, how's it going? Get the coffee going, feeling good. So I'm like, why am I so happy to be awake right now at 4:15 when I'm about to go to the gym, which I hate doing? And I truly believe it's because I switched my morning routine where that first 15 minutes of my day was filled with reflection and gratitude and thankfulness for the things that I have in my life and the impact I'm going to be able to make on other people, versus spending that first 15 minutes of every single day with negativity and dread and, all those sorts of things that I was tied to for so long.
That was so inspiring. It's a great reminder because there's value in starting our day off in a positive way. Speaking of inspiration, in episode 2, we spoke to mother and daughter, Kelsey and Allison. Kelsey reminds us of the stresses that teens face and how scary it can be to have a panic attack. She stresses the importance of having people in your life that can support you.
My freshman and sophomore year went pretty well. Of course, there was some issues at some point, but I'd say junior year is very stressful. I'm a very academic minded kind of person, so I took it upon myself to take a lot of AP classes. I was very involved in school. I was kind of just being pulled in all different sorts of directions, and it was very stressful. I remember this was actually my sophomore year. I had taken a math test, and I've never been that great at math. But I felt kind of prepared for this final exam, but I was extremely nervous about it. I had gotten such a bad grade on this math exam that it dropped me a whole letter grade. And it was because I had a panic attack in the middle of the exam. I forgot all of the information, all of the equations. I could not think. And that was also one of the times when I really started noticing, okay, I'm not like the other kids. This isn't normal for me, at least. It's my depression makes me not want to get out of bed in the morning. Sometimes makes me not want to live. But anxiety tells me that if I don't get up, that my whole future is going to be ruined. So I have to get up and I have to do my work and I have to go to school. So in a sense, actually, they kind of help each other balance each other out.
Do you have people that you can reach out to in those moments?
My mom is the first person I text. Just have a person that you can talk to, and knowing that that person is going to just be there for you. And for some people, it might not be their mom. It might be their uncle or their aunt or their dad, or, maybe not even a family member, maybe a best friend. Mental health is a battle. And sometimes when I felt like I was, going to lose that battle, it's almost like I didn't have enough energy to want to go to my mom anymore, go to people anymore and talk to them about it, because it was just so draining.
That is something that is so important, is that I think, most people picture people with anxiety and depression as, like someone who stays in their house. You can be a high functioning person and still have anxiety and still have depression. It doesn't define you. It's something in your life that unfortunately you have to deal with. Just like anything else, it doesn't make you lesser of a person. It doesn't make you weird. I am a person with anxiety, but anxiety is not my life.
What a special person. Her resilience and willingness to share her story is incredibly inspiring, and I know I find strength in being around people who redefine what it means to be a person living with anxiety. In our third episode, psychiatric nurse Tracey Eisen covers coping skills, understanding the brain, and finding support. But what I found the most valuable was when she shares how anxiety has made her feel so lonely, and how what you're going through is normal and that you're not alone, that you should continue to seek out friendships, groups, and even podcasts, and that therapy can be an extremely valuable tool in helping you feel more supported.
I don't know one person who hasn't gone through at least one episode of anxiety where they've just panicked about something, whether there was a reason for it or it was out of the blue, or even depression, where some people I wonder if I'm actually depressed right now. It's really incredible. And it's important to know that it's okay to talk about this with people, because you're never alone. And sometimes I've told people about what I've personally gone through, and they've been stunned and said, I thought I was alone. I didn't know this was a thing. You're not crazy. You're okay. You are just like the rest of us,
Right.
and we can all get through this together. As a child, and even through my teenage years, I would get this weird feeling where I felt disconnected from my environment and my surroundings. I sort of felt like I didn't really belong there, or something just wasn't right. And they would be short moments. It would be just a few minutes, and then it would go away. But it was really frightening when it would happen. When I was 20 and I was diagnosed with panic disorder, my psychiatrist gave me a list of symptoms. One of them was called derealization. And she asked me, do you ever experience that? I said, I don't even know what that is. When she described it, it described every single one of those little mini episodes that I had where I just felt completely disconnected from my surroundings. And I cried, not because, oh my gosh, I'm having these episodes, but because it's so common that it has a name. I mean, I could not have felt more vindicated at that moment. So please feel vindicated if you're listening, that you're not alone and you're okay. And you should always be able to reach out to your family and your friends, and to listen to these podcasts, and just know that you're never by yourself.
How much has the support helped you, for those listeners that maybe don't know if therapy is valuable?
So I found therapy to be very valuable. A lot of people go into therapy and they think it's going to be, oh, well, you had a childhood trauma that caused all this. Like, it's going to be a psychoanalysis, but it doesn't have to be that way. My favorite part about therapy is that they're not there to tell you what to do and what decisions you should make. What they're there for is to help walk you through your options and to figure out what can happen if you choose door one or door two. And I've never felt pressured by a counselor or a therapist. But it has helped me sort out my own feelings and my own thought process on making good choices for myself. So, having an unbiased ear, somebody who would be totally unaffected by any choice that you make and genuinely just wants you to do what's right for you, has been just absolutely invaluable, in my opinion.
Wow, I admire her so much. In episode 4, high school senior Henry explains how he made amazing strides with his social anxiety and shows how running through what if scenarios can actually help take power away from those fears and help to take steps forward.
Once I stopped thinking so much about social anxiety and I started getting more out there, that's when I kind of fixed it. All the way up till last year, I was very to myself, sat in the back of the room. I was always like kind of hiding from it. And that kind of kept me from being able to fix it. But then starting last year, I ended up figuring things out on my own and kind of not letting it hold me back.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, that first game I went to, I was sitting in the corner, like I was like super nervous, freaking out. Then when you hang out with friends, you kind of forget about your anxiety. And it's just like, I'm not going to think about what I'm scared of. I'm just going to have a good time.
Yeah, that's such great advice, Henry, because you always think about the what ifs. And something my therapist taught me when I was young was, I think you taught me this too, Mom. What if it happens? What if the worst happens? Then it happens and then you move on.
What if we're thinking about the positive what ifs? So like, what if I go to this party and have a great time?
I love that.
What if it's the best car ride ever?
At least for me, it didn't get easier for me to stop saying the what ifs and more got easier for me to just say screw it.
Yeah. Did you feel like it gets easier the more you do it, the more you just go for it?
It definitely did for me, because the first time I did it, it would always be really fun at the end, but like just getting there, that got easier. And it still happens today where it's just like I said, I still think like, oh, what if this happens? But I just kind of get past it. It gets easier because if you look back and you're like, okay, all these times I thought it was gonna be bad and it was good, it makes it easier to go again when you think it's gonna be bad.
Henry was so fun to talk with, and I love his attitude of just going for it. Speaking of getting comfortable doing all the crazy challenging stuff, in our 5th episode with Elizabeth, she inspires us to be stubborn in a positive way and how we can use that stubbornness to push ourselves to try new things and challenge ourselves. And also being kind to ourselves and going at our own pace.
It's sort of been about putting myself in situations that are uncomfortable and doing that consciously. As a speaker, when I first started speaking, I was like so shaky. And even today, having done it for so many years, I'm not so rattled, but I still feel it in my body. It's just, I challenge myself to be uncomfortable because there's growth there.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Like a stubbornness.
It really is. And I've been accused of being a very stubborn person. And I mean, I don't think that that's even remotely true, but
I refuse to believe it.
I refuse to believe that. But I think that stubbornness actually has helped me.
Yeah.
Clients and et cetera say, you're so extroverted.
Mm-hmm.
You can do these lives. You can go on stage. You can do TV. You can blah. You're so extroverted. I'm like, people, I am a total introvert.
Yeah.
Yes.
And everyone's surprised by that. And I said, yeah, I can muster the energy for this. And then I'm going to go take a nap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I can go to an event and be surrounded by 300 people. But when they all go to happy hour, I'm going back to my hotel room.
I relate to this so much. That's me perfectly.
Do you?
Yeah.
I mean, part of getting comfortable being uncomfortable is knowing where your boundaries are and being able and willing to push them, but not trample them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know your boundaries. Yeah.
You have to. And sometimes you learn them by mistakenly going too far. Another thing I've learned about myself is if I'm traveling for a business, especially the day before I leave and the day after I come home, I schedule nothing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The transitions are always challenging. Those are huge, have a huge impact on us.
And some people can come right back from an event and they can just hit the ground running. And I think that we do sort of a poor job in society of taking what we do and making it like everyone else should be able to do that. And if they can't, then they're insert label, right? Lazy, unmotivated. And it took me a minute to own, no, I'm not lazy. In order to be at my best, I need a day to decompress, and then I'll come back in at 100%.
She always makes me laugh, but it's true. It's important to understand yourself, make boundaries, and know that reward comes from putting yourself in situations that are a little uncomfy. In our 6th episode, Trish Lee shares her background as a scientist, gives us all the details on brain speeds, neurofeedback, and how it can change your life. But it's all about those positive thought loops, rewarding yourself and training your brain to enjoy the things that you might usually find challenging.
So you know how we were talking about a positive feedback loop? When you use an anxiety brain pattern, you are creating the beginning of a negative feedback loop, of a downward spiral.
Right.
Wow.
And all these books on neuroplasticity basically are saying that our brains have the power to change themselves, to wire in the way that your mode is operating. So that's good or bad. Neuroplasticity can be our best friend if we're doing all the right stuff, or our worst enemy if we're doing all the wrong stuff.
Ooh, good point.
So if you are stressed out and you allow yourself to then, and don't get me wrong, sometimes it's not allowing yourself, you're so badly stuck in a negative feedback loop, you no longer can control it.
Right. So do you mind explaining what a feedback loop is, positive and negative?
So the feedback loop basically is whatever brain mode you're using, you're going to get more of. And you're either, if it's a negative one, you're going to get more negative aspects. If it's a positive one, you're going to get more positive. And so the way I talk to people about it in our office is if you come in and you're using an anxiety brain pattern, you go out into the world and you're stressed out. It gives you social anxiety. So now you don't want to go to parties. So now you're isolating yourself. Your spouse is mad at you because you never go out. That in essence is a negative feedback loop.
Yes.
Then you feel worse about yourself. Then you eat a tub of ice cream. Then you sleep 14 hours but still feel bad. Like literally it's like the brain pattern creates a negative behavior or negative behaviors, and then you get negative consequences, which hardwires in the brain pattern. And one of the strategies that I always tell people is to celebrate the small wins.
Right.
So if someone's in a program with us, and then now, and this is a true story, a woman took her daughter to the zoo. She hadn't taken her daughter anywhere in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And she had taken her daughter to the zoo. And then that, of course, made her feel awesome. Her daughter was happy.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of a program, I tell people that's great, but literally celebrate it. Like buy yourself a cup of coffee, like make a very big deal out of it.
I like that.
Yeah. Reward yourself for doing that. Yeah.
Because when you do that, what happens is more positive brain pattern gets you a positive behavior, gets you a really awesome consequence, and starts hardwiring in the new pattern that we're creating through neurofeedback.
Okay.
We talk a lot on the show about filling your cup. And so you have to fill your own cup, and especially you, right? You're filling people's cups all day. And then also you have 5 children.
Yeah. And that's the number one strategy. I talk about a little different, but filling your cup is exactly the thing that I tell people. The number one thing I ask people when I start working with them is, what is the thing that you love to do that puts your brain into calm focus? And then they always go, I like to sew. I like to knit. I like to play pool. I like to play darts. Then I say, when's the last time you did it? Oh, I don't do that anymore. And then I say, well, then you need to start. And that's just where we're at. So the number one thing you can do is start filling your own cup. But it's not selfish. People think it's selfish. It's the thing that will allow you to be able to produce the work you want to and be there for the people that you care about.
Absolutely.
The more I understand the brain, the more I appreciate this work. Trish really champions filling your cup, which we love so much. And we didn't tell her to say, by the way. Caregiver Wendy Sterling talks about the extreme panic attack in our 7th episode that led to self-understanding, which made her a more empathetic counselor and home manager. Her story is so lovely.
For all of this, I had a partner, and he'd suffered with some depression. But I look back now and I think, oh my goodness. I mean, I didn't know any better, but I used to say, come on, you just get up and you get on with it. Life throws things at you and you just cope. And that was how I'd always lived.
Yeah. I love that you said that, Wendy, because, I think we don't know what we know until we know it. So that's not brilliant, but it's
true though.
Especially with supporting someone with anxiety or depression, you're trying to be that person. But if you haven't experienced it, to be on both sides of that. So you got to experience what it was like to be a support person and what it was like to actually go through it and know what you needed. I think that's a unique situation.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's even with the kids I work with as well. My empathy towards them, has always been very good. But pre the plane and post the plane, it's given me such an amazing understanding of what it's like to experience that form of mental health. I mean, everybody's unique, don't get me wrong. Through becoming a counsellor, I learned that just because you've lived a similar story to somebody or suffered a similar thing, everybody's experience of that is completely unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like any major event in the world. People will deal with things completely differently, and there isn't one better than the other, but it does give you an understanding of what it's like.
I wanted to ask you how all of these experiences have kind of made you a better, stronger, more empathetic counselor. And maybe you could talk a bit about the work that you're doing now.
So yeah, obviously one of the things for me is being able to, I really want to be able to use my experience to try and support and help others. It's been able to understand that level of rejection more than anything, their parents not being able to look after them. And that tends to stay with them more in some ways, than any other form of abuse. And that's not belittling any other form of abuse, but the emotional impact for these kids is huge. So I'm able to have a sense of empathy for them that maybe others can't, because I've lived it.
How does that impact them, do you think, having someone that understands?
I think it's a huge impact for them because it is somebody that, as you said, has been there, although everybody's story is unique. And I always say that to the kids I work with. Just because I've lived in similar circumstances to you, I'm not you, and I'm never going to be you. But what I can do is, listen and maybe show empathy at a level that others can't.
I loved talking with Wendy. She's so inspiring, and even though she's been through so much herself, she's pouring her whole heart and being into helping others, and it's so wonderful to see. Dr. Jennifer Grot, in our last episode on anxiety, is very passionate about helping us all understand how important control is. While there are many things we don't have control over, there are also many things we can focus on instead.
My main thing with anxiety is I believe that it's a reaction to a perception of a loss of control.
Okay.
So I have a perception that I'm losing control or don't have control in a given situation, and that causes me anxiety, angst, worry, fear, you name it. The antidote then for anxiety is control. And there are a few things we always have control over. So we can always control our reactions. We can always control our physical body, and we can always control what we do with our time.
Yeah.
I tell people you have to look at life on and your, a given situation or event or what have you on a continuum. One end is acceptance and the other end is change. And so those are the goals. And then what we're looking for is, that middle ground. But at times it involves just recognizing that there's nothing you can do about a particular situation. So you just have to choose to accept it. And you have the power to do that, but it's not necessarily anything that you can change or impact.
Right.
All you can do is, mitigate your own reactions. And then on the other end, where there's change, that's where your power is. So when you are, encountering a particular situation, your power is there. And what you can do is realistically assess where things are. Once you find where your power is, then you make efforts to tackle the situation. So you get moving, you get going, you come up with a plan.
Yeah. And I really like what you said about kind of choosing to accept it too, because that's also something we do have control over is, am I going to stress over something I can't change right now? Or am I going to accept in the moment, maybe I can just move forward and focus instead, like you said, on what I do have control over right now, what I can work on.
On the acceptance end, you still have power because you get to make that decision and you get to decide to let it go. So I always tell people to really assess the situation and focus on reaction, what you can control, what you can't first, and then find your power and then get moving, because that's going to give you a sense of accomplishment. It's going to make you feel better, and then your mood lifts and your anxiety goes down. There's sort of this trickle down effect.
Wonderful insight from Jennifer. Each and every one of those episodes had so much valuable practical wisdom that we took with us. We had so much fun listening to all of those episodes again, and we just want to thank everyone who was willing to share their stories and really open up so that everyone listening doesn't feel like they're alone. So now we're going to move on to our series shout out.
Shout out.
Shout out.
All right.
Yeah.
I'd like to start off the shout out.
Sure. Go for it.
Okay, cool. So after listening to all these episodes again, I really was inspired by the bravery shown by teens and young adults during this series. We've received many comments from people that just felt so connected with their stories. And we talked a little bit in one of the episodes about how high school is challenging. It's challenging for even the people that fare it well. So I want to shout out to all the brave teens and young adults for putting themselves out there and for advocating for themselves, because that's really challenging. And we've gotten a lot of comments from people who really felt connected to both Henry and Kelsey. One in particular was from a listener, Sarah, who said, I listened to the Mother-Daughter podcast on anxiety a few days ago. I thought it was really great and thought Kelsey in particular was so brave and inspiring.
Aww.
And Henry sharing his journey with social anxiety, I thought was really cool, and I love it so much. So shout out teens and young adults. You're doing a good job, and I know it doesn't always feel like it, but we want to wrap our arms around you and just let you know that getting through the day is a big deal.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
All right. So my shout out is to everyone out there who might feel alone at one point in their lives, or maybe they still feel alone right now. I was inspired by Wendy and Tracy and so many others who have been through dark moments in their lives where they might have felt like they were the only ones going through these things, but they were able to realize that they're not alone. There are other people going through things like this, and they can also take that to the next level and reach out to others to help them go through those same situations. And like they've also inspired us, we know that everyone has their own unique situations too. So we're kind of alone together in all of this.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I know. We all feel a little lonely sometimes. My shout out is to everyone who feels like they should, who keeps telling themselves should, like I should go to this event because it would be really good for my career. I should do this. I should do that,
Don't should on yourself.
Don't should on yourself. I mean, something that Liz taught me in her interview was that with anxiety, you can go out there and put yourself out there, be on stage, perform in front of thousands of people, do the things you need to do that make your heart happy and that make you feel accomplished. When it's over, you can go back to your hotel room and order in room service and watch TV. You don't have to go to happy hour.
Right.
We tell ourselves we should do these things, but you have to know yourself, your mind, your body, and set boundaries.
Yes, I love that so much. Yeah, it's important. So before we end our series, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the people that are listening and have also reached out to us, written reviews, let us know how inspired they were by the episodes, by the series, but also by the stories and the people that we've interviewed. We've come to know and love each of the people that we've met with, and it's been such a great experience for us. But it's also really cool to hear how they've touched your hearts as well, or made an impact on the way that you think about yourself, or the way that you behave, or the practices that you've adopted. And so we're really excited about that. And that really fills our cup. So we're so thankful for all of the notes that we've received. So we'd like to share a few of them with you.
Yeah. I actually heard from one of my students one of my past students who said, you know, I listened to a couple of episodes of the podcast. I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts, but I really enjoyed it. It kind of reminded me of an adult version of Mr. Rogers in the same way that it talks about serious things, but takes a gentle approach so it does not seem as heavy. And I thought that was really great feedback.
So
'cause that's
sweet.
kind of what
I
we're
love
going
that.
for.
And you are very comforting. You're like a vocal hug, Sean. So I'd like to share one of the reviews that we received from Apple Podcasts. The title is Love! ! Which I love.
Uh-huh.
I love the stories
love.
shared weekly of real people tackling real issues. I especially love the practical advice offered that is so simple to apply. I find myself asking, why have I never thought of this before? Highly recommend for anyone looking for stories to normalize your experience or for real-world application of small steps to take to make big differences today.
No.
We also received a note from someone via social media that I'm going to paraphrase. She has a friend who has been struggling with anxiety and depression and who has been kind of putting off finding a psychiatrist or a psychologist and has found a lot of peace in listening to our podcast, which is so exciting because I think that some people do have a hard time finding
Absolutely.
a psychologist that they connect with, and it can be kind of a demanding process. And so being able to fill those gaps with something like this is so exciting, and that's definitely a huge reason why we do it.
Yes, so good. Here's one that was actually sent to one of our guests. One of her friends sent her a message that says, we're so proud of you for always speaking up about mental health and being such a kind and loving person. I just went through one of the biggest panic attacks I've ever had in a long time and felt more trapped and crazy because I didn't tell anyone before it happened. But then I kept thinking about you and your mom and your support system. So when my mom came in to see what was wrong, I started to open up a little more with her about how I was feeling. Thank you for speaking out and inspiring me to help myself.
That's awesome.
So good.
I'm going to read another one from Apple, from the Fixes In, called Great Interviews and Heartfelt Conversations. This new podcast series is off to a fantastic start with conversations from some really interesting guests providing a unique perspective on different health issues. Give it a listen. You won't regret it.
You won't regret it.
We just want you all to know that all of your messages and support mean so much to us, and we've learned so much from the series, and I think we've made so many changes in our own lives. But please keep all of the love coming in. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what inspires you. Let us know if you have questions or stories. We want to hear it all, and we might feature you on an upcoming episode.
Yeah, we love hearing from you. And we're so excited to share our next series with you. So please come back next week for our first episode on nutrition, where we get to interview an eating psychology coach. Super exciting. You're gonna love it.
Yeah, it's good.
So we're so looking forward to sharing that with you, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Health That's Personal. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts for bonus episodes and new releases every Wednesday. The Health That's Personal podcast is produced by me, McKenna Udi, and hosted with the Phronesis Health Initiative team, Karen Jively and Sean Tingle. Special thanks to portrait artist Alexander, musical contributor Bernie Ramke, and to our guests and experts for their kindness and bravery in sharing their stories each week.
Please listen, subscribe, engage, and send us topics we can explore that would help you on your journey.
Because health, it's personal.